Welcome back to the Jacksonville History Show. I'm Jerry Spinks, President of the Jacksonville Historical Society. We're here, as Emily said to begin, to explore all the various aspects that make up the city's history. This afternoon, my guest is Robert Jones. Robert, welcome.
Thank you.
You for being here. Robert's here for a very special reason. Most of the time when you think about or talk about archiving and family history, you think about people that look a little like myself. No hair, older, enthusiastic. But Robert is here because he started working on his family history when he was 18 and has really begun to collect it. And Robert's here to talk to his own generation about what they can do to do as he has to learn his family's history. Robert, this all started with a funeral.
Yes, it started over 10 years ago. I was in high school and my uncle passed away. And that's when I first acutely became aware of, I was part of a larger group of people, my family. I'd always as a child been around a lot of people, family reunions, birthday parties, etc. But I never really paid attention. But it was at that funeral that I started looking around and thinking, wow, there's a lot of people here and I'm related to most of them. And from that, I started researching and just talking with people. My research was very limited. It consisted of mainly talking with older relatives, specifically my own grandfather. And I said, you mind telling me everything you know, who you're related to? And he said, no, I'd be happy to.
Well, let's put that in perspective a little bit. You are which generation?
I'm the sixth generation of my family here in the Jacksonville area. And
your grandfather is
he would be the fourth generation. My dad's the fifth, and my young son, who was born 2 months ago, is the seventh. So we have quite a lengthy history in this area.
How did you start talking to your grandfather?
Well, like I said, it wasn't at the funeral, obviously, but shortly thereafter, I went away to college, and I came back, and I said, you know, it was kind of dwelling in my mind, and I said, you know, I'd really like to talk about some of those people that were there, and he said, yeah, I'd be happy to tell you, and he shared with me some of the people, and I had a little tape recorder that I was taping my college classes with, and I just turned it on and started taking notes in my little notebook and put the two and two together and just kept asking more questions. And the more questions I asked, the more answers I got and the more rabbit trails to go down. And I'm happy to say I still haven't gone down all of them and found everyone out. But
well, where did he suggest you to go after you had that conversation?
Well, his first suggestion was his older sister. He was one of four siblings. He was the youngest. His older sibling that was still living, the other two had passed away at this point, she was 19 years older than him. And so that was a whole generational difference there. And I went and met with her and talked with her and gleaned every piece of information I could from her. And she had a wall of photographs that would take a lifetime to go through. But I was able to, you know, look at those, and she showed me the important ones and the non-duplicative ones and the ones that she thought were most relevant that would help me. And I, of course, took notes, and those photographs are still in my second cousin's possession, so we still have them, which she cataloged, and I helped her categorize them and update them with information that I had, and we preserve them, which is an important step in this process. The preservation of all these items are very important because once they're gone forever. No one can, both the oral history from the oldest generational relatives as well as the documents themselves. And largely I think the oral history is more important than the documents. The documents, even if someone passes on, you still have them and you can probably glean some information from them. But the oral history, had my great aunt passed away, that would have been lost forever. There was no way to get that back. My grandfather didn't have the memories that she had, and the information from her generation would have been lost to my family forever. such as names, stories, places people were from and traveled to and visited and knew, and all those things were important to document and keep and preserve. And the best method, if there's anybody else out there wanting to do this, is just a simple tape recorder that you can get at any store, and a simple tape. I mean, I think it's $25 for one of these things, and you just buy as many tapes as you possibly can because you'll run out. Once you start, you won't realize how much people want to tell their story, especially from the older generations. And as they talk and tell these stories, you'll need more tapes.
Did that conversation send you up the East Coast, didn't it?
It did. Naturally, as my research developed, and as I said, I've been doing this now since I was 18, almost 10 years, and that process eventually got me to where the relatives here, I've pinpointed where they came into this country through the port of Savannah or Charleston. Not sure exactly without going up there and digging through more documents and archives. And the real reason for going up there is that we have a void of certain documents here in Jacksonville due to the Great Fire. We have land records, but that's it. All the other court records have largely been lost.
Marriage licenses.
Marriage license, birth records, anything else people would file.
Right.
As I'm sure you're aware, or any historian would be aware, that courthouses often served as the hub of a community. And so people would file things and documents in the courthouse to preserve them.
In the middle of all of this, you had a summer in college and you needed a project. Who did you talk to?
Yes, so there's a professor. He's no longer teaching, I understand, at the University of Florida. His name was Michael Gannon. He taught Florida history, just a legendary figure in Florida history. Knew more about Florida history, I think, in his little pinky finger than the rest of us will ever know. And I went to him and I said, I'd really like to research my family. They've been up in Jacksonville for 6 generations, and he said, yeah, that'd be fine, and I'll do an independent study, and you can publish a paper, and I'll read it. I'd be happy to. And he was thrilled to do that. He loved reading about stuff like that. And he showed me some steps and taught me largely a lot of the archiving that I know now, how to preserve things, just a amateur's archiving method, just how to put documents in plastic covers and protect them from elements. And I enjoyed that experience with him. It wasn't too strenuous for a college summer, but it taught me a lot about historic preservation and building a record for researching something, a historical record for a project. And this one happened to be a family historical record. It starts out with a genealogical tree, then it starts out with anecdotal evidence and documentary evidence and so on. And then you eventually become the family archivist.
Well, there's a real indication of a rite of passage in the story you told me. Where did you find the first plastic sleeves to put the correspondence in?
Actually, I collect baseball cards and comic books as a kid. The comic books turned out to be the best one because they were the large plastic covers. Dumped all those out, not the valuable ones obviously, but took the other ones and started sticking documents in them because I thought those were more valuable than the comic books or the other items.
What kind of documents did you find?
Well, I found like my great-grandmother's, the pages to her Bible. Some of the ones got messed up, but there were other pages that were able to preserve, and so I stuck those in there. Letters from family members, some over 100 years old, documenting farm life on the west side of Duval County. Stuck those in there. Old former deeds, sales, cattle sales. My family was in the dairy business, and so they would take cattle records. There was one where my great-grandfather went out to Baker County and bought 40 head of cattle, and there was a ledger showing that. And so I stuck that in there and said, that's worth hanging on to. And as you find, and I still have not even, like I said, for me it's a lifelong journey to continue preserving these things. And I try to go through them, and sometimes family members will call. I had a cousin call not too long ago and say, hey, I found this. Do you know what it is? And I said, well, let me look at it. And I said, okay, let's stick that in a sleeve and protect it.
Robert, I really am inspired by listening to it. I don't have any comic books anymore, but I still have some sleeves, so I do have a few of my grandfather's letters, handwritten letters. One of the things we all have to do is decide who we're doing all of this for. And as we close our section, would you show me who you're doing this for?
Yeah, sure. As I said, my young son, who is the 7th generation, and I'll hold this little photograph up here, and these are the 4 living generations of my family. I don't know if the camera can catch it here. Turn it a little bit this way, see if they can catch it. But as I said, mostly this is for him, and so that he can see I'll let you hold it there, so that he can see and not go through what I had to track down who his relatives are. And it's something that every family should do for future generations, as it's a difficult process once people pass along.
All right.
Absolutely, it's worthwhile.
Robert, thank you for being with us. Please stay tuned. We're going to have a wrap-up on the Historic Sites Committee's report